Hi, I'm Gary Ford from Tiger Hobbies Limited. Today we are looking at one of our imports from Poland again. This time it's Mirage Hobbies. Eastern Europe has always had a fine tradition of manufacturing plastic kits. In fact, Airfix, as British as you and me, was formed by an Hungarian Jewish refugee called Nicholas Kovacs, formerly Austrian-Hungarian cavalry officer in World War One. And he anglicised his name to Cove when he arrived in UK in the late 30s, where he formed Airfix with air-filled products. And he decided on Airfix as it would get him higher in the old telephone directory. He did work on actually early plastic injection machines before fleeing Hungary to the UK via Italy and Spain to avoid persecution in the mid to late 1930s. He was interned, though, on the Isle of Man for being an enemy alien as war broke out in 1939, but was then finally released in about 1941, even though his company Airfix was actually involved in war work for the British war effort, and he tried to still run his factory from his internment camp on the Isle of Man. But going back to the plastic models in Eastern Europe, after World War II in the 1950s, and saw the rise of plastic products. These are simplified plastic kits that were started to be manufactured, but they're mainly subjects of, say, Eastern European military subjects. Some of these made it into the UK market, but were often slated for their quality or poor quality, and names such as Eastern Express you may remember. In the 1970s, Naval took on a lot of ex-Frog models, and these are still produced today in Russia. After the collapse of the Iron Curtain in the late 1980s and early 90s, a number of these companies started to upgrade their machinery or went down the specialist low-run injection with resin moulds. Subjects this time were of Western nature, but were often obscure aircraft or vehicles not covered by the main Western model kit companies. As they found a niche market, and modelers were happy just to have the subjects, even if the quality was maybe not up to, say, Tamiya standard. But by the mid-90s and up to the early 2000s, companies like Edward, Special Hobbies, and later ICM and IBG started to be noticed for better quality kits and aftermarket parts. Now Edward, ICM, IBGs and others have got a reputation of producing kits of the highest quality. One of the brands that started after the fall of the Iron Curtain was Mirage Hobbies, which started around about 1990. Starting with Polish subjects such as the 7TP and the T26/Vickers light tanks and Polish armoured cars. They have grown to have a good selection of subjects from armour, aircraft, figures and a small selection of naval vessels. Tiger Hobbies have been importing Mirage for about a year, and we stock a good selection of their kits. Some of the older kits are exceptional value, especially the likes of the 135th T26 tanks and other light tanks that only RRP for around about $10.99. Actually, during the 1930s, Britain, even though we weren't spending a lot of money on defence, were actually producing quite a lot of tanks. And Vickers developed this, what we call 6-ton chassis. And it was developed into a number of tanks that exported to Eastern Europe and the Far East. So countries like China, the Soviet Union, Poland, and numerous Eastern European countries used this tank, and it developed into what you call the T26 tank, used in things like the Spanish Civil War, but was very, very rarely used. I think a few were used by the British military in the 30s, but not many at all. So let's have a look at some of the models that's in stock at Tiger Hobbies. Behind the turntable, you'll see a larger kit of a 148 World War I German Halberstadt aircraft CL4 HFW. These are some of the later Mirage kits and are retail for £40 plus, but of good detail. You can also get versions that come with aircrew, ground crew and ground support equipment, so you can do a decent diorama. So if you look on the top left of the display and top right of the display, and bottom left and bottom right, you'll see these model kits that I previously mentioned. These 135th light tanks, dating back from about 1990s, good detail but exceptional value at just $10.99 retail price. And we took some to the IPMS Nationals and didn't come back with hardly any. They seemed to sell very, very well. So we've also got, just below the tanks, or before the Panzer tank or captured tankette, you'll find a 1/350th Flower Class Corvette, made famous by the movie The Cruel Sea, based on a novel by I think, Nicholas Montserrat. It's not a huge kit. Let me just put one on the front, so you can see. There you go, you can see that. You can see by my spread of my fingers the length of the hull. It's not huge. Remember, these ships were based on basically a trawler design, but they were critical in the early parts of the Battle of Atlantic till we came with more effective frigates and corvettes. But these are, I think this retails for around about $16.99, so it's really good value. They also do a series of German World War II U-boats as well. The other kit you can see up on the display is a 1/72nd scale AH-64D Apache. These retail for around about $12.99, but please do not get confused with the Mr. kit that's kicking about for about £4 or £5, which is possibly the worst kit brand out there. This one is actually Mirage's own tooling, aimed at the budget market, but still not bad kit. So you can get, I think, the AH-64D, the A version, and about 3 versions of this Apache helicopter you can build. The other kits you can see on the turntable are some figures. So we have 1/35th, 1/72nd scale and 1/16th figures, but they're only just entering the 1/16th range, and these range from around about $12.99 to about $19.99 for the 16th scale. Mainly doing tank crews, so they do I think German crews, I think Japanese tank crew, as you can see just above the 16th scale, American bazooka infantrymen, and some British tank crews as well, especially the North African ones with unusual headgear. I think these are mainly the cavalry regiment, the hussars and things like that. They also do a range of 72nd scale vehicles. It's not a huge range. Concentrate on 3 main types. They do a smaller range of 1/72nd scale kits based on that T-26 Vickers chassis, mainly artillery tractors from the Soviet Union. But the 3 main tanks or AFVs they do are on your left. You can see the Panzerkampfwagen Mark IV. Now, for the German army, their main battle tank was actually the Panzerkampfwagen Mark III. The Panzer IV was actually a support tank. It was lighter armoured. It had a short-barreled 75mm for taking out things like bunkers, anti-tank guns, or anti-infantry weapon. But before the German army or Wehrmacht took on board its next main battle tank, the Panzerkampfwagen Mark V, or better known as a Panther tank, the Mark IVs were upgraded with better armour and longer guns, and were known by the British forces in North Africa as Mark IV Specials. So Mirage, do a range of about 5 or 6 of these early versions of the Panzerkampfwagen Mark IV. The other tank, if you go to the right of the display, you'll see a couple M3 tanks. And again, they do a full range of the M3, from the early M3 Lees in the US service, right up to the Grant tanks used by the British in North Africa, and Lees and Grants from Burma as well, plus tanks such as support and recovery tanks, and a quite unusual vehicle called the CDL, I think the Canal Defence Light System, which was actually quite a secret vehicle that was used in the Northwest European campaign 1944 to 45. Like the Panzer IV, they retail around about $16.99. At the bottom of the display, and I'll just stand them up so you can see them slightly better. This is the M3, M5 range, and they do a good range of these, covering everybody who basically uses in most of the variations, early, mid, late productions, M3 and the later M5. So on your left, bottom left, you can see a M3A1 late. These are around about $12.99 for the basic M3 and M5. If you go to the right, you'll see the M5. Main difference to the M5 is the crew compartment has got more room because they've extended the front of the vehicle with a handled laces plate to allow more room for the driver and co-driver, leaving the two-man turret still in place. These vehicles were America's first real decent tank, or certainly M3, because America's armoured doctrine in the 30s were almost like mechanised cavalry, using M1 and M2 cavalry cars, I think they called them, till they developed the M3, which was their first decent tank. But it was not going to be a decent battle tank, though the British took it on board in, I think, 1941 in the North African desert. We're happy to have a US tank that was fast, reliable, reasonable armour for the size, and a decent little gun in the 37mm. But the upgraded version, the M5, continued right to the end of the war in its original role as a fast, light reconnaissance tank. In fact, some of these tanks remain in service. I think some are still in service with some South American countries, possibly in ceremonial. Also in this range, they do the M8 Scott, which is a small self-propelled artillery with a short 75mm that comes with, for 72nd scale, a interior fighting compartment and interior turret detail. These retail for about $19.99, a little bit more expensive. We also do a range of crew figures for the M8 Scott in both 72nd scale, comes with tents and other accessories, and also in 148 scale. So you can upgrade your the new release Tamiya 148 M8 Scott. So once again, thank you for taking time to watch this video about Mirage Hobbies. If you're a trader, a hobby trader in the UK and wish to stock these items, again, go to our website www.tigerhobbies.co.uk and follow the trade link details, and perhaps have a try stocking some Mirage Hobbies. They're good value, usual subjects, and slightly different from the normal run-of-the-mill subjects. But once again, thank you for watching this video.